Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out episode 4 of More with Murphy. On this episode, my wife Serena and I, we get to sit down with a dear friend of ours, Maurice Clarett, to talk about not just sports, but life, the rise, the fall, the rise again of all that's happening in his life. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Maurice, thank you so much for being here. Dude, it's so good to see you again. Serena and I were talking, how many years ago was it when we first met? And was Cyprus actually one of the first places you shared your story?
With Coach Trussell.
Yeah, with Coach Truss.
Was that 13, 14? So I think somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad now. Yeah, so
no, I can't remember either.
Yeah, so I think like somewhere around like 2013, 14, and I think it was the probably one of the first. I would say top five places I shared my story at.
And was that one when you and Coach Trussell did it together?
Yes, and I think that definitely top five, like where me and him had gotten together and spoke together and did that whole deal. But 100% that was.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, like, that many years have passed already.
Isn't that crazy how
I
fast
know,
it goes?
it does seem like not very long ago. And then your 30 for 30 came out?
Yeah,
30
for 30 came out the end of 2012.
Yeah, so it was.
I remember watching it's not the preview. What's it called? The
trailer or the.
No, when it came out, we watched it.
We watched it here.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
and they still were doing like some edits on it and stuff like that. I think, I can't remember, but yeah.
Like I feel bad. Like, you know how like you get older, you say my memory's bad. I feel bad. Like I'm trying to make a reference point of like something else that was going on that would have probably reminded me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like 7 years. It's been about. I said it's comfortably. I think it's been about 7 years.
Wow.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
It's like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. I feel like I live a different life now. Like a lot different than 7 years ago. I think like when you, even on the front side, like you don't realize how much can change in 7 years. Both good, bad, I guess, or indifferent. But 7 years, like I would have never thought 7 years ago I have another child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just
give us the update on your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jaden, she's 14 and she's in the 10th grade and goes to Columbus School for Girls and proud to say, makes all A's. Very, and I think more so than the A's, very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So I think that I think like even oftentimes when I'm talking to her about life in general, I don't care about grades as much as I do being self-sufficient and being
resilient.
Just more the character in regards to what you do, being more responsible on her own to like not have to hear from her mother or father to say, hey, go, do your homework. We don't have those conversations, so like that's cool. Titan, that's my little boy name. So fun, yeah.
Titan.
So, Titan.
That's awesome.
And he's 11 months old now.
He's 11 months. Yeah, he's 11 months. And so he's he's being a baby, and I was telling you before the show started that the first 4 years, obviously, I was out of Jaden's life, and I remember when Ashley was pregnant. I don't think one time I ever thought about like what life looks like as a parent. You know what I'm saying? I like automatically in my head I skip to like 4, 5, 6 years old when the baby's like already prepared, right? And from not being in Jaden's life, obviously through being in prison, being there with Titan now it's like, oh, you got to be here like every day, 24/7. Like that's like a whole thing, and like
and Ashley's like, yeah, you get to experience this now.
Yes.
Here he is.
Yeah. So. I used to think like changing diapers would be like the most complex thing, but I don't think that is. It's the attention you have to give to everything at every time. So like you think you set him down, and then he's in the cupboard, he's just grabbing and picking and playing in the toilet and running through the closet and grabbing the drawers open, and then he's sliding down the stairs. So all the stuff that kids do. There's a different connection that I guess I'm experiencing with him that I didn't experience with my daughter, because you feel like you're like with my daughter. I felt like I jumped into the family, and this one is like you're starting it, which is like different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just a unique and cool experience. I think cool is like the only word I can come up with, but fulfilling, I guess. Just a cool experience. I don't know.
Awesome.
I remember when we had, I don't remember which one it was. It was one of our kids. We have 3 boys, obviously. And Serena, they were young, and I remember you looked at me and you were upset. And you're like, you don't even do you even love them? And they're a baby. And I was like, I do, but like we can't go to Home Depot. We can't watch Sports Center.
I don't really know what to do with them.
I go, I'm not sure what to do, and that's.
No, I get it. So like, and believe you me, and that may even be a conversation like that men have. Like, so
Yeah.
And you'll feel guilty because you like, I don't know how to engage, right? And it was the same thing with me. So it ends up being like I'm pushing him down on the ground and I'm acting like he's playing football and I'm tripping him and he's laughing and I'm slamming him on the bed and he's laughing and giggling and it's all I know how to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I guess the mother's more nurturing and let me cuddle and play like fun games and try to teach you words. Whereas the dad, I'm like, I just want to rough you up. You know what I mean?
And Frank, honestly, even the difference between boys and girls.
Yes.
Boys, that is a super old book, Bringing Up Boys.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a guy, he's a Christian author, but he says, if they're a boy, if it can be climbed, boys will climb to the top and they'll jump off when they get there.
Yeah.
And girls will like want to cuddle and do different things.
Yeah. So I'll tell you like this. So I have some nieces. And it's like, so the nieces were over. The nieces were over last week, and it was just so different how they were in a driveway. They're playing basketball. They go to the backyard. They on a swing set, but I'm more like gentle. You know, so it's more like, hey, they dropped the toys. Let me pick them up, or hey, you want to go get your bike down? Let me get the bike down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if that was my boy, I say, man, come here, you get your bike down. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a lot different. I don't know why.
And boys will not stop like touching each other and pushing each other and wrestling with each other. That's how our boys were all the time. They could not.
Even into their 20s.
Yeah. I mean, it's a constant walk-in and I'm just going to grab you and tackle you to the ground. And girls, it's just quieter and nicer and they play and,
Yeah, they just got to pick up all their toys that they left out.
How's Ashley doing?
Yes.
Oh, good. What is this, 16 years now? I think like I was explaining this to somebody, I don't know, this was probably 2 or 3 days ago. And like you cross a threshold where, and it's probably been crossed years ago, where it crossed from like relationship to like this is who you're living your life with, if that makes any sense. And like it becomes like the relationship goes into a different context.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking through your Instagram or something, and I actually got tears in my eyes this morning when you said you had a picture of all 4 of you, and it said my permanent crew.
Yeah.
And so, I was just like, because you guys have been through a lot.
Yes. So like, you go through, I don't know, nobody gets with somebody on the front side and say, hey man, I'm just going to experience all this turmoil with you. You know what I'm saying? and then, you get to go on through turmoil and then you get at different points in your relationship. And, sometimes you love each other more than you like more times you love each other than you hate each other, then you dislike each other, then you love each other. And you go through all that. And then, you have times where you look back on it, you say like, man, like I didn't believe that like we even got through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know how we got through it, but you do. And I guess the older you get, it becomes more about like, this is who you're journeying with life with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but I guess like people in relationships, like, and it becomes like everything is less physical, more spiritual, and making sure like you're living up under like the appropriate concepts. And now we're talking about just the things that we're doing, like how it plays in the Titan's life, how it plays in the Jayton life, and it becomes more about family planning, if that makes any sense. Then
influence and impact.
Yeah.
Than just you or just the 2 of you. Yeah.
And so I think like
the next generation.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but I can't say at the front side of our relationship, like, cause she comes from, I don't even like to use the words broken home, but she comes from a home that's not traditional. I come from a home that's not traditional. You don't have like the appropriate family structure. So there's a lot that you're trying to figure out as you go forward. You don't have a lot of reference points, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of stuff you're just trying to figure out. You try to figure it out as you move forward. And, some stuff you get right, some stuff you get wrong. But I remember we had a conversation at a table and I said, it was a time where we were, like you ever like have like an argument and it's like not a serious argument, but but like the thing is almost trivial, and like the the position you take with your attitude is a lot more like deeper than like the issue. And be like, what are we arguing over? You know what I'm saying?
What are we arguing over? Nothing.
Well, the number one thing that our counselor said, the number one thing couples argue over is nothing.
Nothing.
It's not the thing.
It's not the thing. It's sometimes something
deeper
or whatever that happened a long time ago, or
But I'm gonna tell you like this. So we were having one of those moments, those nothing moments, and I think like you can see the relief in her face. Like she probably assumed that I was more angry than what I was, but me just taking the position of like whatever it is, we're gonna figure it out.
Yep.
Wow.
And so in her face, I can see like the pressure come off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, he's not thinking about leaving, or he's not mad, or he's not something. Like, no, like whatever it is, we're going to figure it out. Like that's the position we're gonna take on all this stuff, right? No matter how mad, angry, whatever it is, we're going to figure it out. Like this may not be the day to figure it out, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we're going to figure it out, and that's the position we're going to take moving forward. And so, like that, like I guess like having that security. And I guess if you've seen broken relationships, you're always waiting for like, yo, when is this going to break bad?
Yep.
When are we going to separate? When what does this look like in comparison to what I grew up in?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? When does it break like that? And so just a reassurance like, yo, like we're cool. Like we can have arguments, we can have disagreements. Like anytime you're in close proximity with anybody for an extended period of time and you're talking about making life-changing decisions or you're talking about the future of like what you want to do with the boy, the girl, both of the kids. You're just going to have different points of views and perspectives, and that's cool, you know what I mean? But like somebody has to hit the reset button and say, hey, you know, like we're not going to stay in this space, and we're going to move forward. And we've done a good job of doing that. And
that's really good. That's awesome.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you said sometimes you look back and like, man, how do we make it through there, whatever. Are you to the age yet where you're encountering people who don't remember you as a football player?
Yeah. Look, a funny thing you say that, right? So 100%. I there's people who they know my name, but like, how do I know you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I say, I don't know. Like, yo, you look familiar. Like, I don't know why I know you. I don't know how I know your name. But
isn't that fascinating? Because there was an era, every person in America, knew you, and had an opinion,
But when I'm talking about but I guess good and bad. Good thing is that I don't have to be captive towards like the athletic sort of whatever that is, like the athletic identity. I don't have to uphold that. I don't have to get questions about it. I don't have to do a whole bunch. Oh, excuse me. And also you've had a bunch of other successful people who like when these kids think of like how did they fall in love with Ohio State football? It's like, oh, this is their hero. Their heroes are here. And that's cool. And but then also and I don't blame it, but social media puts so much other information in front of people. And so if you weren't like you can think probably like the last 3 or 4 years, there's people who are probably the biggest thing in America and they just get drowned out by new information.
And social media controls the narrative story, whether that's true or not.
Yes, 100%. They 1,000,000% control the story. And that's what you see, and that's what you're drowned by. But to answer your question, I 100% run into a bunch of people. I like to people, like they'll hear my name. They've heard my name more than they've probably seen me. And they'll say, oh, that's you. Because there's not a lot of Claretts. You know what I'm saying? So they'll hear Clarett and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's you.
There's not a lot of national champions who single-handedly won the game. Yeah.
I got lucky, right?
Hey, not to assume everyone who's listening to this knows your story. Give us the Cliff's version.
Okay.
Of your rise, honestly, your fall, rediscovery, and then I want to get into some of the stuff you're doing today and what you've learned. Yeah,
so in a nutshell, this is probably like 100,000 foot view, but came from Youngstown, played football growing up. In the midst of all that, got into some trouble when I was young, but just trying to discover myself as a kid. Easy to say now, but as a kid, you're trying to, figure out how do you want to be identified amongst your peers. I guess that's the easiest way, based on the environment that you're in. You're like, okay, this is what's cool. So getting in trouble was cool, and obviously ran into some troubles as a little kid. Eventually, that pushed me into playing sports. Went through the whole deal of playing sports. Found out that I didn't necessarily like football or basketball or sports in general. I just enjoy competition. Like the more I look at my life and the more I look back on it, and just the things that I actually enjoy, I just enjoy competing. And I enjoy concepts. I just enjoy competing against each other. And I had successful football, and eventually became one of the top players in the nation. Came down to Ohio State with pretty much the same mentality, saying, hey, let me pursue whatever it is I'm pursuing at the highest level. And I ended up basically getting a starting position at running back. And we went through the season. This was 2002. We went through the season, had an undefeated season. And the best way I can describe it, in a sense, I had probably the most successful 13-month run in all of college sports, to go out and be the national player of the year in high school. And then 13 months later, you're experiencing what it is like to be an 18-year-old kid in Columbus and become a national champion, which was, a ride, and to say the least. And to say the least. But we came back, eventually got suspended from school for an assortment of issues with the NCAA. And when they suspended me, and I always talk about this time, we always have like moments where, when you look back on them, they're a little easier to see, but when you're in them, you just can't. You don't see how that a decision you make within adverse moment can push you one way or another. And what happened? What happened was they kicked me out. They kicked me out of school, and I didn't realize how much just having a schedule, either be it through class or be it through athletics, how much that put guardrails on my life.
Yep. And
when it was left to me to have my schedule, I didn't really understand how to deal with just stress and depression. And now, this is 2020. It's a lot easier to talk about stress, depression, even to talk about a counselor or mental health medication or to talk about therapeutic interventions. That's like a normal conversation now. But at 18, 19 years old, when you're a kid, hey, I'm supposed to be like this big, tough football player, but I'm restless at night. I can't sleep at night. I'm stressed out, depressed. And so obviously, you substitute that for drinking, drugging, and all these other things.
Find different ways to medicate.
Yeah. And so I always say this, when oftentimes when people say you drink and drug, I don't like to go into this, feel sorry for me. You have fun doing those things. You had a whole lot of fun, being who you were and doing what you were doing, because it felt good or it felt different than
being depressed or
being depressed. And you don't know how to work out of this. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then from there, I went to California, and the same thing ensued for a couple of years, for lack of better words. And then I ended up getting drafted by the Denver Broncos. They brought me out to Denver. They tried to put a system around me to help me. You know what I mean? But at that time, in my mind, it was more important to excuse me. And this is describing the 2 years out of football. The 2 years out of football, I had turned back into what I was as a kid, thinking I was a gangster, and it's either athletics or being a gangster. This was what was important to me at the time. And so eventually, got back into football. I was supposed to be a professional athlete, but obviously, I didn't. That didn't pan out. And then next thing you know, I got kicked out from the Broncos, and from there went right back to the streets. I ended up committing a robbery downtown in Columbus. Got caught for that. Then eventually got caught on a high-speed chase with a bunch of other weapons, and then went to prison. Went to prison and got sentenced to 7.5 years after. Excuse me. After I gotta say, and I always give him credit, Mr. Calicante. Mr. Conte really, he really helped my life. He really helped me to put a foundation in my life. He was the first one to, take and put me into the therapeutic intervention, therapeutic services, your cognitive behavioral therapies. It was the first place I began to read, first place I began to just be isolated from most things outside of myself, partying, and just all distractions in general. What really happened in prison. And just became focused. If you ask me the core of how did your life change, really a lot of it came from reading. I think what reading, you just challenging your current level of thinking, your perspective, a whole lot of self-evaluation. You know, you still have your same personality, and obviously you're in prison, but you just begin to view. You begin to view what you're looking at a bit different, or you begin to view relationships different, and eventually got out of prison after 4 years, and that's kind of like what's brought me up here. I don't know where you want me to stop or keep going, but
no, that's I've heard you say many times, show me your friends, you know, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
And what you think, what shapes your thoughts, wherever your thought fixates, your mind, that you've set the path.
Yes, 100%. And I'll say this to add on to that. And I don't know if you're aware when you're younger how or the importance of what it is of how you identify what you call yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, like, if I look back on my life at different times, like the subconscious thought of like who I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question though, because there's a bunch of kids who have dreams in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the percentage that play sports in college or even just go to college, much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone hits a setback
mm-hmm.
in whatever the category of it, you know, it looks like. You described earlier, you know, what do you think the difference was? Because today, I would say by all appearances and outward perspectives, you're a very successful businessman,
mm-hmm.
family man. You give back to the community in a number of ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally, and in fact, I think you put it on social media some time ago, and it was a snapshot of you in that season of life, and then a snapshot of life today. It's not even the same person.
No.
How did you make that change?
Mentality. And so I speak to myself a little bit more graphic than this. If you see me on the internet sometimes, it comes down to mentality. You know, I think like people are literally separated, and what you become is based on mentality. And I remember just being in prison. I just remember looking at myself or just thinking to myself like, you know, I'm better than this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know when you're not maximizing your potential. You know, every single person knows.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you can entertain yourself, you can lie to yourself, you can do all those things to you can lie to yourself and not pursue who you're really supposed to pursue. And you know if you're giving everything you have to whatever it is that you're supposed to be. Even if like it's not an ultimate thing of I'm supposed to be this person, like at different seasons in your life, you're supposed to pursue whoever it is you see who you are at that highest level at that moment. And I just wasn't doing that, you know what I mean? And I told myself one time, I said, man, if you can get up every day and you can try to pursue a football career where 1% makes it every day, and that's for an outside entity, right? You have to have that ability to go pursue that for yourself, right? And so I just got to different moments, like even, this probably happened like 2015, 16-ish. And that's probably what they're seeing now. Like even 2010 to 14, 15, I was still trying to figure out what life looks like post-incarceration. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to figure, right? So, you know, a lot of my peers had, their lives were on a different track. So I didn't identify with them. A lot of my friends were athletics and I was into the real world. I didn't identify with them. I was trying to be something else. And the same mentality that I had with football, with pursuing something at a high level, I've been fortunate and blessed to have that mentality. I understand what it takes. Like I understand like the extreme discipline, the extreme rigor, the extreme like not feeling sorry for yourself, the extreme like no excuses. I can tap into that mentality.
I've often said there's a lot of, I don't care what the category, it could be marriage, athletics, finances, whatever. A lot of people see the public result.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea the private discipline and the journey that's taken to get to the place. Like everybody wants a great marriage. If you're married, you want a great marriage.
Yes.
But you got to work through those things we were talking about earlier that says, I'm not leaving. We are in it for life, and we're going to figure it out.
Yes.
We're going to figure it out.
So whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, or whether it is in whatever it is I'm doing, I have that mentality. So like you'll quit before I quit. You know, but I have these harsh conversations to myself.
Yeah.
And it's reforming yourself and like through incremental, rigorous work, change happens.
Yeah.
But you don't see all the change that takes place. You just turn into a different person. So as simple as it may seem, I could probably you could probably go scroll through my Instagram probably for the last 7 years, getting up before 6 a.m.
Yep.
And not because like it's cute or anything, but because you're working on yourself.
Yep.
Physically, mentally, and spending time with yourself. Like, I give you a perfect example, right? So that the picture of me being incarcerated, that's a roll out of the bed when I want to type of person in comparison to where I'm at in life, right? So, I get up every day religiously 4:45, 5 o'clock, somewhere within there. And I get up, I grab coffee, I go to my desk, and I'm literally sitting there meditating, praying, and just kind of clearing my head.
Yep.
And I'll visualize like this little man, I don't know where he came from, but I'll visualize him just like scraping the thoughts off my brain. And I'll visualize like thoughts coming out my ears. Like, it's like there's just a little visualization practice, right? And I'm a firm believer that you set your intentions, right? You set where you want your energy to go. And so I got my same legal pad, and this pad has been for the same, or this pad or these composition notebooks have been with me for forever. And I'll start writing my goals down. And so I'm setting my intention on where I want my energy to go. And literally religiously,
like the goals for that day or whatever comes to your mind.
No, so I believe you have to set where you ultimately want to go
Okay.
first.
Mhm.
So like so a person may get up and they may chase their phone. So you're telling yourself you rather be entertained than to worry about yourself,
That's good.
right? And so I don't even dig into that. If I dig into it, I say, hey, I'm up, and just
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm up and getting going, but
Yeah.
that's down. And so I'm at the desk and it's silent, and I crack the window open. I can like kind of see what's going on outside, and I write my goals down, and I focus on how I feel when I'm writing them down, because I need to get into a space that I can believe that I can accomplish whatever it is that I'm doing. And so anytime that I'm feeling different about something, I get curious about like, why do you feel like you don't have the confidence to do that? And so like now I'm revving myself up. So I continue to drink my coffee, I'm clearing my brain, and I'm meditating on it, and I'm visualizing myself do this, right? So as a man thinketh, so shall he become. And so I'm a firm believer that everybody can create their lives based upon just where they set their intentions at and where they focus their energy. And so I don't call something big and lofty, even in regards to business goals. Like, I'll visualize what it takes to be that. I'll visualize myself becoming that. I'll visualize the mechanics and operations of myself becoming that. And then that's the vision that I've pressed in my mind. That's what I'm going to pursue, right? I don't worry about if I have a formal education. I don't worry about if somebody thinks I'm unqualified. It doesn't matter. As long as I believe I can do something, I just feels like it's just all about you doing
Figure it out.
Then I go and I work out. And so it's religious. So I get up and I go work out, but I am summoning the energy, right? So I think if like you're trying to pursue something big, it's impossible to do it without having energy. You get energy from working out, right? So then whether I hate it, like, so oftentimes you see me talking in the morning on camera, probably 80% of the time I don't want to do it, right? Not at that time. So it's getting colder outside. You walk into the garage, and literally I'm not trying to get ready for a season, but I understand the stuff that I wrote on that paper, I need to be serious about. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so this is oftentimes like how I come in and talk to myself. And so very intentional about even what I listen to while I do it. I listen to only music that encourages, it teaches you to hustle, encourages you, or puts you in a good spirit. And this is sort of like, another person may call it kooky, but this is something I believe in.
Have you ever heard the name John Gordon?
John Gordon, yeah.
Energy Bus, Coffee Bean.
Yes,
I just listened to a podcast this past week, and he goes, the problem for most people is they listen to themselves rather than talk to themselves. And you think about that. There's always that voice, whether that's Satan, whether that's doubt, whether that's self-sabotage, whatever.
Yes.
Again, marriage, business, personal health, whatever.
That's a good one.
We all have a voice. He says, don't listen to yourself, talk to yourself.
I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah, no, I do too.
And that's pretty much the routine. And that's actually a good one. I didn't think about that. That like just even that's education, making yourself aware of something. That's actually a good one. And that's sort of how it happens. And I'll tell you like this. I think another one that I don't know if people incorporate. I believe in aromatherapy, and everywhere in the house or in the gym, I burn candles. Even when I'm working out, they can't smell it on camera, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll burn a candle because I just like things to look good, feel good, smell good.
Yep.
But then I believe once I'm done with that and I go to the world, I'm prepared.
Yep.
So now, whereas if you woke up and you was like, and I believe like this first thought, right? And people could like practice it themselves. I think the first thought of somebody when they hear an alarm clock go off, or they know that they're supposed to be up, the position that they take at that moment is like the tone that they're going to be for the rest of the day.
Yep.
So if you're like, man, I don't feel like doing this, like you've just told yourself, like you don't feel like living life. And so to be encouraged about getting up and to be happy and to say, hey man, I'm happy about going to pursue something. Like I feel grateful and happy that I'm going to pursue the things on my sheet. Like I like those things. Like I love notepads, right? So my room is filled with notepads and whiteboards, and like I get happy to get up and go pursue it. You know what I mean? Because you have, I don't know, I just live like with a spirit of gratitude. And I think that, so if I post something on the internet, like in regards to that, it's more encouraging to say like, you can be somewhere and like, you don't have to stay there. Like you can be in that and you can work through it. You can work out of it, and it's not going to happen overnight. But there is pleasure in taking the stairs. You know, there's nothing feels rewarding if somebody puts you somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like if like you can, it's oftentimes how they talk about kids who come from fortunate families where the reason that there's a public perception of the kid who has money for the second generation is because he didn't take the stairs to get it.
Yep.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, but they respect the kid who has resources, but then they say, yo, he worked his butt off even though he had an opportunity. And so oftentimes now I'm happy I took the stairs on my stuff because there was lessons learned through the process. You know, so like I don't get bent out of shape too much if we're dealing with each other in regards to business, like I'm a very intense person. I'm serious because it's business. Like, and if they catch me outside of that, it'd be like, hey, I'm just like a good guy, right? So like who you see me doing business and this guy's two totally different people. Like business is a sport to me. And
Competition.
It's competition, and we're playing to win.
Yeah.
And there's a different mentality we have to have, and we're going to that's going to be that. And even that like takes people, they're like, what do you mean? I thought you were like the nice guy Maurice. Like I am outside of business. But these are goals and objectives, and we have to hit them. And
let me ask you this: the Cliff's Notes, the rise, the fall, the rise, and soaring. What have you learned about the inner circle of friendships and relationships around you?
Oh, it's everything. Even through, and I'll say this, even through rising and getting my life back together. Even there will be some people that they'll mean well, they'll do well, and you'll experience them. And then there's other people who you're supposed to be nurtured with and grow with. And it doesn't mean that these people are bad people, and it doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. But those aren't just the coaches that you're supposed to have to get to where you have to go or get to where you want to go. And I've learned that, but I didn't identify that early on. You know what I'm saying? Like you could have you have to let go of good people too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could have a great people, but where you're looking to go or the things that you want to accomplish in life, those people just don't water the plant anymore.
Yep. You
know what I'm saying? And they can be great people. And I've had to do that. And not to say let them go, but just the majority of my time can't be spent around these people. You know what I'm saying? And so then I have to go up to another level to be coached by somebody else. And I look for more situations to be a student in. Like, so if you look at even the business partners that I have, these guys are 55, 48, and they're well experienced. But this is who I have my conversations with. So if a person hears me talk, or if a person hears me talk, I'm regurgitating what I've learned from them. I'm living my life how they're living their lives currently. You know what I'm saying? And so now there's a different level of maturation that's being displayed because they went through the rigors to get to where they're at, and then I'm being coached. But also I can also see clearly like when I didn't have like my best moments in life, I could see who was around me then. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not to blame the people who are around me, but it's to say that I should have been aware, or I should have been more responsible with understanding that this isn't where I need to be in my life right now, or who I need to be around.
How have you learned to deal with the disappointment of out of prison, rose. I mean, that's been years ago now, but maybe some people you thought would be there for you but weren't. But then once you got back to the top, they're like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm here. I've been here the whole time."
Yeah, understanding. Like me figuring out myself gives me more patience with people.
That's
you know what I'm
good.
saying?
Good.
Like these, like nobody, nobody who's ever been around me, they never intended for me to do wrong or for me to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all the things that we were in. That's all we knew how to do, or
Yep.
what was familiar to us,
Yeah.
right? So if we're selling a drug, committing a crime, like there's a lot of things that go on in inner city America that makes perfect sense in inner city. Like, and there's a lot of people who look at it and say, man, how can somebody do something so crazy?
But that's just the way of life.
That's a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
This is how people survive. This is normal interactions. This is just like right now, today, I can get up and go to Youngstown, Ohio, and I can be standing in the middle of something that will be so crazy to somebody else. But I would also get that this is just how people live. This is normal stuff. So these people didn't know that. Or oftentimes a person in the inner city will say, man, I know how to show let me show you how loyal I am to you, and start trouble with somebody and act like I'm defending you. And they'll do that. And you say, yo, we don't have to do that to say that we friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to start trouble and then like solve the trouble that we start. Like, we could just be friends and exist and like go work on something, right? And when they try to come back, when they try to come back around, but when it's almost like there's a lot that doesn't have to be said, right? So, prime example, I went out to, my brother turned 40, and I went to Las Vegas because he had a party. So we're in the party, and not in the party, we're in a suite, and we had a dinner. It was like they made the suite into a big table because you couldn't go down to the restaurant and stuff like that, right? So made a big table. It's probably like 30, 40 people. And we're sitting down, but there's some guys who we grew up with, who I used to run around with, they were there. And you could just tell from like dress, like I had a suit on, like I was like there to like, hey, I'm supporting my brother.
Honor your brother.
I wasn't into the foolishness, and you can kind of see like the separation. And so they seen it. You know, so we didn't have to say anything.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing that they could approach me on. You know what I'm saying? So they like, and then now it's different because you can see on the internet kind of like what somebody is into, like, or even if all of it isn't real, like you can see a portion of it, you can say, hey, this is what, you know what I'm saying? This is what this guy's into. And so, and then also we don't see each other in the same spaces, places. And so a lot of people, they stay away from me just because they're like, yo, he's not on that. You know what I mean? And I'll say, even with that, like, so, but there's also a group of people who can't visualize me outside of that. Like that becomes more of a thing. Like they'll say, man, like you were in this place, and like, how are you outside of this space? And that becomes like an enigma for people. Like when I can see it in their face, like, and it's almost like crazy. They'll think that like I was just supposed to commit crimes forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you're supposed to be a football player till you die, or you're supposed to like commit crimes at some point, and you're supposed to just stay there. And I just like, no, like people learn and grow, and they have YouTube and they have books, and you read and you learn and you become a different person from all this. And and I just like actually did that. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know. Yeah.
A lot of opportunities have opened up, particularly with football programs and really across the nation. What's the message you're giving today's college young athlete?
Have more ownership over your career, and be honest with yourself. And I hope that somebody either is a college athlete or somebody who's around college athletes can grasp this. And so, a lot of this stuff is what is it called? Dog and pony shows, right? So a lot of these colleges, they get these kids, and I'm not sure. I'll just like educate real quick. So when you're a student athlete and you enter, or if you're a regular student, and you enter campus, like Ohio State, you have to have, I don't know, a 30 on your ACT to enter, or whatever it is right now. But if you're a student athlete of any sport, it doesn't matter. You can have a 17, 18, they'll still allow you to come to campus. And it's not Ohio State, not LSU, not Notre Dame. It's a systematic issue, right? So then what ends up happening is, if this university is set up for people with 30s, and you come in with a 17, like what classes can you really take? You know where I'm coming from? This is common sense, right? And so in saying that, they purposely bring these kids on campus. This is a bunch of smart people. And this is what I do. I challenge people. There's a bunch of smart people who miseducate kids on purpose. So this is not kids. So they say, oh, the kid had this class and, he took this nonsense class. No. When you come to campus and you sit down, they offer you these nonsense classes because they know that you can't take anything else on this campus. So I'm just in the process that I make the kid aware that you didn't manipulate the system. The system was set up for you. Right? And so we forget that these kids will be adults. We forget these kids will be parents. We forget these kids will be uncles. You forget that these kids will be reputable people within communities, so on and so forth. These kids will have all this, right? And so, like, me making kids aware of that and making coaches aware of that, and a kid have an opportunity to say, okay, I'm being miseducated. Now we say, hey, make sure your coach gives you a learning specialist, right? So I couldn't read very well at 18. Well, I can read, but I couldn't comprehend what it was that I'm reading. So these universities have learning specialists. So if you can't read, if you can't do math very well, if you don't have a concept of anything outside of football, go to a learning specialist and say, hey, you're going to educate me. So I fight for these kids to be educated because I understand that education or learning, not just a schooling education, learning changed my life.
That'll really, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Learning, like having fun learning, that changed my life. So, you get excited about it. You get a book, you get excited about it. Like, that wasn't a thing to me at 18. But there is material out here that these kids can get excited from and start to change their minds rather than say, hey, let me just have you, play football and, run routes or tackle people for the rest of your life. And that's sort of the message that I'm having with them. And then said, hey, and even almost to the mentality, right? And I explained to them, a lot of these kids come from inner cities and they still live with the lottery mentality, right? And so the lottery mentality, when you're growing up in a neighborhood, you never think that I can work to build a life to do something. You don't think of progressively building a life because that's not around you, right? Everything you almost see is instantaneous, right? Let me sell drugs, let me get money, let me be successful. Let me get into a car wreck, let me sue somebody, let me have financial success. It's never incremental build a foundation for my life. And I tell them, right, or your mother, your father, your grandmother, your aunt, it's always, let me play the numbers and hit the lottery. That's like poor thinking, you know what I'm saying? But you don't realize it's implemented into your mind when you go to campus and you're still working off this 1% mentality, right? So this 1%, like literally I say, if I told you all, we can go to California, we can get $10 million, but the plane had a 1% chance of making it, like how many people would get on? They all say no, right? Like we wouldn't follow you, we wouldn't travel with you. But I say, do you understand you're doing that with your life every day right now? Like the probability of you becoming a professional athlete is literally 1%. And then almost to the point, you can take your stats and what you've done year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and based on like math that's out here, it'll show if you have the probability of going to succeed in the NFL. But if you're uneducated, you don't even know how to put this whole mathematical problem together.
Right.
You're just out here running, banging heads, playing football. You get a jogger suit, you get some sneakers. And then when you're done, you go back out to your community, you say, man, like what happened?
Yeah.
So I was the guy who, when it was over, I was like, man, what happened? So for me, this is kind of like my favorite song, top 3 of all time is Elton John, A Circle of Life, where you go through something and you come back, you can give to it. You know where I'm coming from?
Yep.
And so for me, it's coming back and giving, say, hey, slow down, let me show you what you're in right now. Let me show you all these moving parts. Like, don't get confused about the marketing. Don't get confused about starting position. Don't get confused about that, right? If you happen to just have a 4-year football college career, that's cool. Get your education, get your learning specialist.
Amen.
A lot of these kids don't even know, a lot of people don't know, your scholarship is a donation by an alumni. So there's somebody who sponsors your scholarship. So I say, hey man, if there's somebody who can give you $60,000, this person has to be doing okay for themselves. Can you introduce me to the person who has my scholarship? So I say, hey, go ask your coach who sponsors my scholarship. Can I get introduced to this person? So if you've given me $240,000 over 4 years, you would have a personal interest in seeing me succeed, right or wrong?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's excellent.
After you're done playing, if football doesn't work out, hey, could you introduce me? Can we talk, have a conversation, or do something? So my message isn't, let me give this kid some money, because a fool and their money will soon part. Literally.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more in depth. And so it went from telling my story, but you may just connect from certain parts of my story as a kid, right? You may say, okay, I get it. I understand it. But can I give you information to make you approach your current situation different? And so then now, and I give them an action step. Like, when I leave here, this is something you can go do.
Yeah.
And then if you have trouble even navigating it, reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll tell you who you need to contact. And then at that point, the work starts. But there's no reason, and a lot of this stuff is derived from me, thinking about myself and what happened to me. There's no reason you should experience at any top 5 school. There's no reason you should be able to experience like all of the illustrious football moments, the Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl, all these bowls, and have that experience for 4 years, and then like the experience of like you're just back in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like that's not the appropriate transition.
Yep.
And so a lot of these kids are first generation college students, so they may not know, they may not have people to tell them. And so one thing I learned, like, you can't unsee and you can't unhear. So hopefully I hear it and say, okay, I can do something with this. I don't know.
But you had said, I tell them to contact him, do this, do that. A lot of that comes down to they have to do it.
They have to do it.
I mean, yeah, you I'm sure you run into people, you need to do that, and then they never do. And so it's like,
yeah. So you have your portion of people who won't follow through. But you have your portion of people who do it. So even like if I can get 2 or 3 of those guys and it can impact their lives, like I'm cool with that. Like we come to church, right? And everybody sits, right? And so you can give them all the information. Now
you're preaching, man. Come on.
Now what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and then the battle was like from Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday. So you have to enact it. But I'm even that, like I give you another example, right? So one of my close friends, right? He was his little brother. His little brother was like having issue after issue after issue after issue. He's like, man, like, he knows what to do. I tell him right, I raise him right. So I had to send him a picture of me. And I said, bro, I'm your business partner. Like, look at me. You know what I'm saying? As some people just go through their degenerate phases. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, right, wrong, or indifferent, person can be raised right. Person can have all the mentorship. Person can go to counseling. A person can have all of the fixtures, right? But one thing I realize in life, like, you have to give people the space to fail. And like, nobody wants to see it. Like, even now, like, my son, like, I don't know if I like go to jail for like child abuse or something, but if he's falling off the couch, I let him fall. You need to experience it. Like, fall, feel the pain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stand back up. And I don't, like, he cries, I don't grab him. Like, no, like, I need you to experience, or like, I don't need to manufacture struggle, but I don't need to avoid it.
You can, if you rescue people so often, you actually do them a disservice.
100%.
Because they're not feeling the pain necessary as a motivation that says, I got to do something different here.
And I'm not doing that anymore.
And I think that me experiencing pain is like, will help me, like, yo, I don't want to experience that no more. But we want to save kids from pain. We want to manufacture everything.
There's a guy named Tim Elmore. He's written a ton about adolescence, parenting, and he has a book called Habitudes. How do you, like, the mindfulness, how do you develop the habits and pass those on? And one of the things he says, out of parents, often they're concerned to protect their children, that they don't struggle or experience pain. You're actually crippling them from developing resiliency and just learning how to figure it out in life.
Deal with things.
How to be a survivor.
Yeah, like, I've experienced my fair share. I believe it though. I mean, I wouldn't change anything in my journey, and I, even anybody who's listening, I would encourage you just to, like, let your kid feel it. You know what I mean? And this is the best way I can explain it. Or not the best way I can explain this. This brought up a thought. I know I'm just kind of, I might be going off script.
No, you're good.
I would talk to these young guys about football whenever we talked, right? And I would tell them, like, they was like, a kid was having a moment where he said, like, it feels like older guys are always picking on younger guys. And that was the context of this whole thing. And I said, it's not that older guys are picking on young guys, but I'm gonna just give you the difference. So in the social media era, like social media is a normal thing now, like where you have to live with. But I said, when we play football, you would have to actually get up, go out there on Friday night, perform very well, break a tackle, stiff arm somebody, do something special. And then you wouldn't write about it. Like the person who came to the game and seeing you would say, yo, did you see person A do all of these amazing things, right? And you had to compete against all these people within the city to earn a spot in your local paper. And that was like the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you struggled, push, pull, just to even try to make the local news. But that wasn't driven by you. That was from fans and people who said, man, where camera crews went on a weekly basis was who's going to have the highlight, who's going to do something special. So you had to earn it. You know, now you have a kid who could just say, hey, I got a couple cool plays and I can edit these things and put some music behind them and I can make myself look very cool. And you would have to earn a fan from the work that you did. So now a kid can just manufacture that. And you can have somebody say a comment, say, cool, great, awesome, you're cool. But it's like fake gold. You know what I'm saying?
You're preaching.
And you're in your head, this is what happens. And you're in your head and you're the coach, right? Coach, why don't you put me in? They love me. Yo, you're not really good.
Yeah.
like, yo.
And the problem is, it's not just the kid. Now it's the kid's parents.
Yes.
The parents think their kid's better than he actually is.
Fools go. Like, I have no problem. If my daughter watches this, she knows this. I purposely stay out of the game for her. You have to go out there and struggle, earn that yourself. You're not getting something because you're Maurice Clarett's kid. I need you to feel and experience that hurt on the bench. I need you to go try to beat out that kid. And if you don't beat him out, that's cool. Yeah. That's perfectly fine with me. I don't care. We're not here for that. We're not here for you to go to the WNBA. We're here for camaraderie and all this other stuff. And like, I need you to feel embarrassed and all that other stuff that you want to get better. I am totally cool with that. Do I want you to play more? Yes, that's cool. But if you don't, like, I'm not heartbroken. Because we're not pursuing that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like that's the ego victory.
Well, then go back to your point at the beginning. There's a bigger issue at play, helping her grow to be a strong woman.
Yes, that's more important.
That's and if sports plays a role, education plays a role, family plays a role. There's just a lot to that. Hey, briefly tell us, what are you excited about? I know you got a lot of irons in the fire in the business and giving back to the community. Tell us what you're into.
Yeah, so I mainly just do three things. So the obvious thing, I still do the Red Zone. We still do a mental health and recovery center. Has been different this year just from school.
COVID
schooling and not being a session. But with our mental health and recovery center, we probably service about 500 kids on a daily basis, do all the therapeutic interventions with them. And you have different counselors and social workers and qualified mental health specialists and so on and so forth. And we've been doing that going on 5 years now. That's a fixture. I do a real estate investing. I've been doing that probably closer to 4 years now. But I do all like affordable housing and tax credit stuff. Not sure if you're really familiar with it, but basically, I call myself, I make affordable luxury rentals, so basically people who normally have like deplorable housing, I basically make their housing a lot better or what you would normally see in like a prominent suburb or somewhere and do all the flooring right, the walls right, the paint right, the outside, whether it's new siding or whatever it is, I make it an honorable place to basically live.
Awesome.
Yes. And then the newest or the newer thing that I do, and there's other things that I do, but these are the most dominant things over my time. But I have vascular surgery centers. And so for people who don't know, there's a ton of individuals in this world who have PAD, which is called peripheral arterial disease, where they have a bunch of plaque in their arteries and their lower extremities. And I ended up partnering with a gentleman out of California. Went out there, this was maybe, 2 years ago, and the irony was that they were talking about building a recovery center in their neighborhood, right? So they were sending people to a recovery center out in Malibu, and they said, man, it just becomes too much to send people there. They said, we can just basically buy a home within our neighborhood and reproduce and recreate the same thing. And so I was basically just taking them through the process of like what it takes to basically build those. And just through conversation, I had basically purchased a building in Youngstown. He said, hey, man, if you are interested in what we do, or if you're interested in some of what I do, you can bring these medical services back to your community, because basically people in lower socioeconomic areas, they have more disease than people who are in healthier areas. And this is mainly an issue with just people in lower socioeconomic areas who eat poor, people who have diabetes. And he said, let's bring some centers to Ohio. So we partnered up here, came to Columbus. We have one in Columbus, just opened up in Cleveland. And we're doing one in Youngstown. And those are the pictures that I share. And so if anybody sees me share like graphic pictures, it's all like it's purposely for shock value, right?
Yeah.
So just to get a conversation started. So I know some people are like, man, I just hate that you do that. But the purpose is to get your attention, right? Why do people do the
mission accomplished?
Yeah, mission accomplished, right? So if you don't send any shock value, like you have to like, and that's not your even with you all, like even when you're marketing something, you have to like, you have to, whatever it takes, not your job, but who's ever marketing your material. If you're not grabbing somebody's attention, you're not really marketing the material. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so, and even from that, we've had a bunch of conversations that got started out of me sharing these feet. But literally what happens is people don't take care of their feet. They'll end up getting disease. And most people believe that they have to get filleted from their hip to their knee. But with endovascular surgeries, it's actually they'll take a small incision in the bottom of your foot, and they'll basically clean it out. Look on the monitor, clean it out with some of the toolage that we have. We do stents and so on and so forth. For everything in the lower extremities, and that's kind of like what I've been into, and so I don't know. I'm excited about everything. I think like when you're spending your time right, or you feel like you're spending your time in a place that you actually want to spend it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing like stuff meaningful. And you're not spending time, like, there's a bunch of people who probably get up and be like, man, I just hate what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think also I've crossed like different thresholds that like I think people have to experience. And I'm bouncing around, but like it's all like coming to me as I'm talking to you. I think the threshold of like I need to get this thing to feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to have like some money to feel a certain way. I've crossed the threshold where like money doesn't equate to happiness, like more like having purpose in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that I've crossed, like that is like, and I think that's an American issue. I think that you're like, man, if I get this, I'm going to feel that way. And it's not, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're like doing something that makes you happy. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to have a financially successful future because you have the ability to have options and choose life and how you want to do. But you need to be happy within the stuff that you're doing. Even to the point with the media stuff I want to do, podcasting made me happy. Like I was happy doing podcasting. I was happy having conversation. I was happy doing that stuff. And I just was like, I'm just doing the stuff that makes me happy and creating a space for it and stuff like that. But those are the things.
And adds value to so many others.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And totally adds value. And I don't know, it's just a new way of learning. Like to me, if you're in America, I don't see how you can't have fun. I just don't like, like when you can create, you can like, I just think like back to 15 years ago, you couldn't do all of what you can do. You know what I mean? And I have fun living. You know what I mean? And probably, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. I just don't feel connected to political issues. I don't feel connected to, to the drama of America.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
I don't care who is the presidency. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to live my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Regardless to who's in that position, regardless to who's
your
in
life's
there.
purpose and life's mission is not dependent upon other people.
It doesn't matter. Like I'm not invested. Like, and maybe that may sound un-American. I'm just not invested into that. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't think like anybody who holds a position has that much like dominance over what I get up and doing and what I have control over. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like almost like a freedom of like everything. Like I'm not into like, I couldn't tell you what's on TV right now. I can't tell you what's going on. Like, I don't know what's going on in pop culture.
But you know what's in that pad every morning at 5 a.m.
Yes. But that's my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if it isn't, if it isn't like, but even to the pad, there's a business section, there's a family section.
Yeah.
So I have my goals that I write down to do. Well, it's not date night now because we don't have the ability to freely go with Titan, but to make sure spending time with Ashley every night, or not every night, every week, like a set time where it's us to daddy and daughter, like even if it's our times where we're going back and forth to practice, and then daddy and son. But these are goals. Whereas before I would neglect those, and it would be about the business, and then nobody else would get my time, and that would be like just super business. You know what I'm saying? So my life is in a notebook. My life is on a pad, and it's I'll say this for people: it's okay to be selfish. Like I'll say that may like, and selfish in regards to pursuing the things that lead to a healthy life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like you get to those places where you say, hey man, I need to be so giving to everybody. You give everybody everything and not to yourself and to your own household. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We just wrapped up a series called Margin. And one of the basic concepts is you have to have it before you can give it.
You have to have it before you can give it,
you got to have it for you first. Your energy, peace of mind, peace of heart.
Yes.
And then you can bless the people around you.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Maurice, Serena and I, Cypress Church, we're in your corner, man.
I appreciate it.
We are
Your
so
whole
proud of
family.
you.
Yeah.
Your
Thanks.
family. You inspire so many people. And if there's anything we can do for you ever, we're here for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's always a pleasure coming here.
Thanks for listening to the More with Murphy podcast. It's our hope that listening will help you discover and embrace more in your life. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and subscribe and feel free to share. You can also help us achieve more on the podcast by writing a review of the show. Positive reviews help us reach new listeners, grow the show, get new and exciting guests, and tell us what content you are loving. Who knows, we might just read your review on the show. Did you know that we also give 5 of you free coffee every episode? All you have to do is take a screenshot while you're listening, tag @KenWMurphy, and post it to your Instagram story. We'll pick 5 random winners and send you a Starbucks gift card. Finally, if you want to learn more about our guests or the resources mentioned on the show, check out our website at morewithmurphy.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for More with Murphy.